The answers to your questions, you know the way. We just have to be open for that. I love Carl Anthony, the music of Carl Anthony, and I particularly love this song, and sometimes when I'm confused, I sing that to myself. You know the answers to your questions. So we're talking about this entire month, we're talking about the new version of God, 2.0. It's from Deepak Chopra's book, The Future of God. And he says there's a whole new idea birthing itself today of the new God. And guess what? It's the God in me. And of course, most of us in this room kind of get that idea, don't we? It's about the God in me. It's not about the God out there, God someplace else or some other time frame. No, it's about the God within. The God within me. And so today, Deepak Chopra talks a lot about the stages of how to know God. We're using this book as well. And there are many stages of how to know God. And we know them all maybe in the same day. We know them all maybe in the same day. But one of the stages of knowing God is this knower within, this wisdom place, where we open to the energy of the divine in the experience, and it's an inside job, so to speak. It's concentric. It comes from inside out, you see. So it's a wisdom situation. It's a wisdom place. It has nothing to do with our education. It has nothing to do with the religious tradition that we've grown up with or actually cultivated in our lifetimes. It has nothing to do with the knowledge that we have accumulated through all of our wonderful studies. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't hear me say there is. But it's just not going to get you any wisdom. Might help inform you, but that's not where wisdom lives. It's not about your IQ. It's beyond mind. It's beyond learning. This wisdom place, this inner knower, we need a WQ, a wisdom quotient. There's a book out by Daniel Goleman, EQ, emotional quotient. Well, guess what? We need a WQ, a wisdom quotient, because wisdom quotient can get us through anything. And really, our wisdom quotient is based on how aligned we are in any given moment to the energy of the divine within us, expressing through us, moving all around us in everything all the time. And when we're not connected, our wisdom quotient is a little bit less elevated. So we have to remember the truth of our being and remember who we are, and that, in our community, one of the main things we teach is that we are each a divine spark, right? A spark of the divine is within us, moving through us, moving as us in the universe. We are that. We're part of the energy that the divine is, or God, or source, or mind, or love, or light, or whatever you choose to call that higher power, that higher being. We're all part of that. I am that. It's that knowing. And so I was thinking about this topic, and I was thinking, how does that work in my life? And I can tell you, in order for wisdom to come through, we got to get ourselves out of the way. We gotta clear the decks, and we've got to move away all our preconceived ideas. Like Glenda said, the Buddha says, don't believe anything. Come at every experience fresh. And so it reminds me that every time I step on this platform, silently to myself, I say something along this line. It gets garbled, but sometimes it sounds like this. Let the meditation of my heart and the words of my mouth glorify the divine energy that I hope to bring forth. Be part of a reflection of whatever the divine wants to come through, because I can tell you something. I can practice up, I can read a lot of books, I can think I know a lot at this head level, but when I get up here, my job is to open to the divine to see what comes through. And sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with what's on these papers. And the reason for that is, as I connect with folks in your eyes, I get a sort of a message from the divine that says, oh, you need to say this, you need to go this direction. And I go, really? I'm not sure I can do that. This is what I'm talking about. We get ourselves out of the way and allow wisdom or the moment when we live wisdom, we're living in the moment. Whatever is present for us in that moment. We know. See, I like what Deepak Chopra says in his wonderful book, How to Know God. He says, when we understand God as the knower within, we become comfortable with certainty and uncertainty. We know that life is spontaneous, yet it has a plan. Events come as a surprise, yet they always have an inescapable logic. Have you noticed how that works? Strangely, wisdom often arrives only after we stop thinking. Instead of turning a situation over and over from every angle, wisdom helps us arrive at a point where simplicity dawns. With wisdom, there is a presence of interior calm that needs no outside validation. You just know. Wisdom goes beyond thinking, and no amount of mental churning will get us there. That's what wisdom is. That's what wisdom is. We got to live wisdom. We have to live in that field of pure potential, pure possibility that is open to anything, and who knows what that could be. Sometimes, I think about how we got here to the chapel, Linda, when we talk about this inner knower, this wisdom. Back in November, when we were faced with the challenge of finding a new home for our community or closing the doors, and that was a choice, one of our options. When we were faced with that option, there were a lot of tears, and we met with some key folks in our community, and we shared some ideas, and we didn't really have a plan. And then Glenda went home, and she cried by herself at home for a while, like we all did. And then she opened to guidance, and the wisdom came through, and guess what? She got a message. She got a sign from the universe that said, go look at that chapel over there that is now the Mysterium Theater on the campus of Church of the Foothills. And she's going, really? And so she drove there the next morning before our meeting. We were all going to be meeting to go start pounding the pavement to look for a new place for common ground. She came to this location. This building was empty. The theater moved out. It was a disaster, and it was available. This is how wisdom works. We get ourselves out of the way. We open to guidance. We follow the next indicated step, and all of a sudden, something new that we never thought about. Now I need to qualify this. We knew this was a possibility. We had known this was here, but we didn't know that it was available, and we didn't know how really available it was. So it's sort of a combination of all of those things, those ideas. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So it's this idea that the universe knows what we need. We just have to open to that, you see. And sometimes it's a huge surprise, and sometimes it cuts through all the chaos, all the complexity, all the confusion of whatever's going on, and all of a sudden, there's this intuitive insight that presents itself, and something beneficial will pop up and go, oh, I get it. It's that aha moment. Have you had those aha moments where something that you haven't ever thought about just pops in, and you go, wow, is that possible? Could that be it? Could that be a possibility? It's that total responsiveness to the moment. Whatever the moment needs, it seems to arrive. But you see, it doesn't do that if we're not open, if we're not paying attention, if we're not clear, if we're not connected, if we're not in that field of pure possibility. Because what I know is that wisdom moments, those moments when the divine is trying to say, hey, getting your attention here, those moments vibrate at a higher frequency. They're different. Have you noticed how that is? It's different than reason or a plan or your project, your goals for your project. It has a different quality about it. It goes beyond all that thought stuff. We need to use our thinking mind, don't we, to solve problems. But then we have to open to something more, something greater, that aha stuff. And we can be wise, and we can have reason at the same time. We can figure things out. That's what we do. Once we were given the opportunity here, once the divine universe said, oh, this is the place. Let me tell you something. We kicked in high gear and thinking, because we had to figure out how to make this black box turn into a chapel for this community. So we use everything, but we have these layers of attention that we bring to most things in our life experience. We have these layers of attention. The first thing we do is we hit the surface, don't we? We look at the surface problem like we did that day when we didn't have a place for common ground to go. See? We get real concerned with all of the data that's coming at us from our five senses and from the world, and we start taking that in and collecting that information. And then we have a lot of thoughts about it, and we try to figure it out. We have a lot of feelings. We might have to cry. We might be afraid. We might be worried. We might be something, whatever. See? And then we get busy organizing the surface of our life. Isn't that how we do it? We start organizing the surface of our life. Now, for me, I need wisdom most when I'm in trouble. I don't really need that much wisdom when I'm out in the backyard playing with my dog. I need wisdom when I'm in trouble, when things are a mess and there's a lot of chaos going on and myself, I can't figure out what to do. That's when I need wisdom. And this is where that second attention comes, that second look at the experience beyond the surface of whatever it's showing me right now. Beyond the surface of the, oh my gosh, we don't have any place for common ground to go. Beyond that, where we see a deeper perspective, where it's not about thinking. It is not about thinking. It's about opening up to something else, something greater, something different. And this is what we call wisdom. It's intuitive knowing. It's an inside knowing that brings itself forth. It's something beyond our everyday understanding. And what I know about this idea of wisdom is that it's on the spot, it's in the moment, it's within the experience, and I can never plan on what it's going to look like. I can recognize it. I can open to it. I can, be prayed up. I can practice being open. I can meditate. I can practice being fully present like we do with our work with Eckhart Tolle, the now moment. I can practice all that stuff, but I really can't plan the exact moment when an aha experience is going to come shining through, when a wisdom moment pops up, because it's spontaneous. And so I have to be ready and attentive to the energy of the divine working within the possibility of everything. And it's especially beneficial when I'm in trouble, when I'm scared, when I'm in a mess and I don't know which way to turn. You hear what I'm saying? When everything's going haywire, this is when I need to open to the power and the presence of the divine. Because it's really easy to see the wisdom of the universe in the way a bird flies. It's really easy to see the wisdom of the universe in nature. It's not so easy when you're struggling with something. So we have a choice point. We either get to pay attention and listen. Oh, drive over to Church of the Foothills. Drive over there and see that chapel? Are you kidding? Well, okay. Or dismiss it. Nah, not that. That won't work. Nah, there's a theater there. That can't be it. See? How many times do we not listen to the message, to the sign, to the whatever that thing is, the symbols that show up? I know Jan Bates was struggling with a situation in her life, and she had lost her husband, had an accident. He was a former husband at that time, and she was in deep sorrow around this. And all of a sudden, one day, she got a letter with a stamp on it that had a squash blossom necklace image on it. And that was a symbol to her, an aha moment from the universe, that everything was okay with her husband who had this serious accident and died, because he had given her a squash blossom necklace. It was dear in their relationship. And here, in her moment of crisis and pain and sorrow, comes this letter with that stamp on it that says, it's okay. It's okay. Everything in the universe is okay, Jan. And that was her sign, her symbol, her wisdom aha moment that let her know that the divine is supporting her experience. Is that true, Jan? Yes, absolutely. So I picked this image. Does anybody know what this is? This is King Solomon. You know, in the Bible, if you come from a Christian tradition, you may know the story of King Solomon. I didn't know all the story, so I'm going to share it with you. I only knew part of the story. I knew the end of the story, but I didn't know the beginning. So I'm going to share this story with you because we so often think in terms of wisdom of Solomon, don't we? Isn't that sort of like what we say? Well, in this story, I want to tell you something. In this story, there were 2 prostitutes. I did not know that. One had a baby, and the baby did not survive, but she didn't tell anybody. Her friend, the second prostitute, a couple days later, had a baby, and it survived. The first lady who lost the baby made a switcheroo in the middle of the night and changed her dead baby for the living baby. So when the second woman woke up in the morning, her baby was no longer living, the baby that she had in her care. Now, they both claimed the living baby. And so they decided to go to the wisest person they knew, the wisest one, which in this case was King Solomon. Now, this is the part that I remember from childhood, right? So they took the baby, the living baby, and the dead baby, and they said, we both claim the living baby. This baby's ours. And they felt that the king would intellectually know whose baby did it look like this mother, did it look like that mother, you know, who did it resemble the most, what are the circumstances, what is the intellect behind this decision? No. King Solomon said, bring me a sword. I'll cut the baby in half and you can each have half. I'll cut the baby in half and each one of you can have your fair share. And the mother, the real mother of the living baby said, no, give the baby to her, to the other woman. You give the baby. I don't want you to cut that baby in half. And in that moment, he knew, King Solomon knew, it was a surprise ending, sort of. He knew who the real mother was because the real mother wouldn't want any harm to come to the baby. Do you see how this works? It's like beyond all intellect, we open to something greater within the experience. We see beyond the surface. We open. Now, in this case, he probably also had a deep psychological understanding of human nature. Yes? But the truth is, this wisdom of Solomon knew that, you know, there was something more working in this situation than the surface showed. Deepak Chopra says, when a wisdom moment comes, it flashes across our mind as a sense of rightness that defies explanation. I wonder what would have happened if both mothers would have said, all right, cut that baby in half. Then what would he have done? But he knew the rightness of that decision, right? Because there was a sort of like a download from spirit, so to speak. So wisdom is living in the moment. And wisdom is living in the moment of the soul. It's part of our journey. It's a reflection of our connection with the divine in any given moment. If we're not connected, we're going to be blocked. If we're not connected, we're not going to open to the possibilities. We're going to stay on the surface of our experiences, and we're not going to look deeper. We're going to be trying to figure things out and organize all this stuff to make life work, and we're going to think that's all there is. When we open to wisdom within that experience, we're going to get all that ordinary thinking out of the way so that we can open to something else, something different. We can't grab it. We can't grab wisdom. We can just know it when it happens. Allow something very deep within the experience to touch us so that we know that there's this rightness about this choice that we made. And what I know about this, it reveals surprising things. It's worked in my life. Crazy things come out of staying open to wisdom. It's like that aha moment. It seems like we have them all the time. So here's your invitation. Trust your inner knowing. You know everything you need to know. Whether you think you do or not, you know at the core of your being, from that wisdom place, how to be present with your experience if you open to the divine. Open to something beyond the mind stuff. If you've been ruminating on an issue, or on a situation, or on a relationship problem, or on anything, that your human mind can't figure out, I invite you to open to something beyond that mind stuff that's going on. Be ready for a surprise. I was just talking with a young couple that we know from our other center this morning, and they said, oh my gosh, you know what, we're moving to San Francisco. We thought we were centered here in California. We got this experience. We were in deep debt, and we didn't know how we were going to get out of it, and all of a sudden, we opened to the universe and said, please show us how to do this, and now they're moving to San Francisco because they got a job opportunity. And so that's how it works. It's like, you get your mind out of the way, how are we going to pay these bills? And all of a sudden, when you open, something else comes in, and it's a surprise. What? We're moving to San Francisco? Are you kidding me? I'm sure the parents of the grandchildren are not all that happy, but what are you going to do? And then when it flashes across your brain, you know that it's right. You know that, this is, for today, this is the right solution. So I'd like you to think about Carl Anthony's lyrics. Remember, you know the answers to your questions. You really do. So just stay open. Thank you.